So I have to say, I find it actually pretty impressive that CNN's just not trying to hide it anymore. They are really not. They have actually come out and admitted that the only thing that they think that Joe Biden has to do to win the presidency is to stay in his basement and not talk to anyone. This is exactly what they're saying. They're saying that this is a referendum on Trump. Biden just kind of happens to be there, and really his job right now is not to screw around, because this is not about Biden. This is a referendum on Donald Trump. Not even trying to hide it. Not even trying to hide it that the Democrats have given the voting public literally no one to vote for that has any challenge to Donald Trump whatsoever. I'm sorry, Joe Biden is a horrible presidential candidate. He was handpicked by the DNC to be the candidate. They got everyone else to drop out because they were trying to block Bernie Sanders from winning the primary. They just should have let the primaries play out, which is exactly what the Republicans did when Donald Trump won. They didn't like that Trump was winning, but they let the primaries play out. They let the voters have their say. DNC did not do that. They handpicked Joe Biden, and now Kamala Harris is swooping in as the great Jamaican Indian hope that is going to save America because she is a woman of color, and that is all that matters anymore in the land of the DNC. But here's what CNN isn't getting. Liberals are not buying it. True liberals are not buying it, and they are defecting, and they are planning to vote for Donald Trump because you've given them no other option. And I'm going to prove that in this video. First, we're going to read this article about expert analysis from CNN about why Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris as his running mate. And then we're going to look at this article that was just posted today from Carrie Smith of Unsafe Space. Carrie's been on this channel a couple times, and she wrote this piece that says, I'm a liberal that's voting for Donald Trump, and here's why I'm voting for Donald Trump. CNN doesn't think these people exist. They want to try to convince you that walkaway is something fake, that it's all just Russian bots, Russian bots, Russian bots. And it's just not true. But let's take a look at this article. Actually, before we jump into that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping business. So, folks, I'm trying to grow the channel. I really want to hit 100,000 subscribers by election day, just for bragging rights. I'm just going to get that little plaque from YouTube, and I'm just going to retire. I'm just kidding. I'm probably not going to retire, unless you guys, really piss me off, and then we'll see what's what. But I do want to hit that number. That is a goal that I have. And so if you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to my channel, turning on those notifications, all that good stuff. If you think you're subscribed, just go ahead and double check because YouTube may have made that decision for you. All right, let's read this article from CNN. Here's why Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris as his VP. Joe Biden thinks he's going to win the White House in 84 days' time. So, listen, I want to say, I am actually genuinely terrified of what's going to happen when the left figures out that they aren't winning the election. Honestly, because they're so convinced, guys. They're so convinced that they're going to win. This is 2016 all over again. They really don't see this coming at all, and it's terrifying to me. It is absolutely terrifying, but we're going to see what's going to happen. Joe Biden apparently thinks he's going to win the White House in 84 days' time. He picked Kamala Harris. Harris, who ran unsuccessfully for the Democratic presidential nomination earlier this year, had been a frontrunner to be Biden's pick for months because, well, she simply made sense. Harris was such a poor candidate in the Democratic primary that she dropped out of the race before they'd even had one vote. Because her campaign was so poorly mismanaged, they ran out of money, and so she dropped out before one single vote even took place. But let's consider her credentials, quote unquote, as CNN is putting forward. Consider, she's been vetted on a national stage due to her own 2020 bid, but was she really? Was she really? Nah, I'm going to say no, except by Tulsi Gabbard. She was certainly vetted by Tulsi Gabbard. She has experience in government as both the California Attorney General and as a U.S. Senator since 2017. At 55 years old, she represents a younger generation of leader. I'm not sure I would ever classify 55 years old as a younger generation of leader. I'm 39 years old and I call myself an old lady, every single day. I'm not sure that 55 is young and spry and all those things, but of course in comparison to Biden and Trump, really anything's going to look young. She is a historic pick as the first Black and South Asian American woman to appear on a major party's national ticket, which of course is what they're betting on to win the election, which is sad and racist and all these things, but this is where we are. She's from California, a massive treasure trove of Democratic votes and Democratic donors. Democrats were never going to lose California. That was never going to happen. I know we had the walkaway rally there this past weekend. I know a lot of people were excited about that. Democrats were never going to lose California. Let's not, misjudge the scenario that we're in. That was not the dependent state in this election. She emerged as an outspoken voice on race and the need for police reform following the death of George Floyd in May and subsequent protests that sparked around the country. She also emerged as an outspoken voice when she supported Jussie Smollett, and we all know how that worked out for her. But I want to skip down here a little bit and start up on this paragraph right here. And this is where CNN really kind of just they just let it all hang out. They really do. See, if you are Joe Biden, making your third run for president and ahead in virtually every swing state and nationally over President Donald Trump, every day between now and November 3rd, you want to do nothing that threatens to change the underlying dynamics of the race. And those underlying dynamics are that this election is a referendum on Trump's first term in office and, more specifically, the deeply haphazard and erratic way he's handled the coronavirus pandemic in the country. Under that theory of the case, Biden needs to spend most of his time convincing Trump voters that Trump deserves to be fired, and a relatively small amount of time making sure they believe he could do the job in the incumbent's place. CNN has just basically positioned that Joe Biden doesn't need to run on anything. He doesn't need policies or ideas or any of these things. He just needs to convince you that you don't like Donald Trump. This is what they've been doing for 4 freaking years. This is why I had to leave the Democrats. To be honest, they have driven away liberals like me because of this nonsense right here. They don't have any positive case to make for themselves. They only have the case to make that the other guy is bad, the other guy is wrong, the other guy is evil. This is what is driving the wedge in our society right now, is nonsense like this. Make your case about why you are the better pick. Show us what you want to do. Show us your ideas. Can you name one Joe Biden policy right now? I can't. I honestly have no idea. I'm not making that up. I have no idea what his policy positions are, and according to CNN, it doesn't really matter. Let's keep going. What that all means is that Biden wants the race to be about him as little as possible. Well, we already know that. We don't even see Joe Biden anymore. Where is he? Where is he? Where has he been? Is he going to show up for the debates? I really hope he shows up for the debates. That's going to be epic. He doesn't want to turn this into 2016 all over again, in which Hillary Clinton was forced by Trump to play defense over her time and emails at the State Department. He doesn't want the race to turn into a war of words or a battle to see who can sink it lower in terms of personal attacks. And so in making the most important decision of his campaign, Biden abided by that approach. He wanted, above all, to do no harm. I'm sorry, dramatic voice just came out. I can't help it. CNN just brings dramatic voice out of me. So Joe Biden's whole thing is say as little as possible, be stuck in his basement, and pick the most boring vice presidential nominee of all time. Now, I'm not actually sure that Kamala is going to do no harm, as they seem to be insinuating here. I think there's absolutely a lot of harm that she could do. I mean, my God, the progressive wing of the party, which is basically ripping the Democratic Party apart, has been going after police officers for months. Kamala Harris was the Attorney General in California. This is like oil and water right here. This does not mix. This does not go together, folks. It is not going to work for them. But that's really what they want Biden to do, is just sit down and shut up and don't make it worse. Let's scroll down a little bit more here. Harris, by contrast, has no obvious weaknesses that Trump campaign would exploit. Oh, really? In what universe, CNN? This is your best political analyst, that Kamala Harris has no weaknesses? All right. Yeah, it would note, as it did shortly after the pick was announced, that she slammed Biden's stance on segregated busing in a June 2019 presidential debate. So literally CNN says, Kamala Harris doesn't really have any weaknesses except that time that she went after Joe Biden for busing in the debate, the only impact she made in the entire Democratic primary. But we're just not going to That just never happened. Come on. But it's hard to see that attack. Oh, excuse me. Not long ago, Kamala Harris called Joe Biden a racist and asked for an apology she never received, said Trump campaign spokesperson. But it's hard to see that attack doing much damage, given that Biden made history by picking Harris. So he picked Harris, and that means that nothing that Kamala Harris said about him in any of the debates was valid at all. All right. Okay. Like, CNN actually thinks people are stupid. If the so-called, if the he's a secret racist message really going is, excuse me, this is a very confusing sentence to read. CNN copy editor, come on. Is the he's a secret racist message really going to resonate, given not only that, but also a series of examples of Trump weaponizing white animosity towards minorities during his time in office? No way. Okay, CNN, what examples of Trump do you have weaponizing white animosity towards minorities in his time in office? I want a specific example. They just say shit and they don't back it up. And while her prosecutor past in California might rankle some liberals who believe she was too aggressive in policing, it's equally hard to imagine that liberals, faced with the prospect of 4 more years of Trump, would abandon Biden because of it. Oh, really? CNN. I'm a liberal. I've abandoned the Democratic Party. I left in February. I'm not going back. F no. You guys have confirmed every single article you write like this, every single time you report the news and it's just all editorializing, and zero news. You drive people like me away. I am not a conservative. I did not join the Republican Party. I'm an independent. There are so many things that you could have done to win me back, but now, because you have gone insane, no thank you. And I'm not the only liberal saying this. Carrie Smith from Unsafe Space is also saying this. I'm voting for Trump because the Democratic Party is no longer liberal. We're not going to read this full article. The link is in the description below. Carrie spends the first half of the article basically talking about how she used to be a social justice warrior for 20 years. She was a true believer in the ideology until she realized that it was racism and it was sexism, and she left and now has an amazing YouTube channel along with Carter Laren, Unsafe Space. I will link them in the description below so you can go subscribe to them because they're awesome. But I wanted to scroll right down partway through the article. This cancerous ideology is now being forced on us in cult-like indoctrination seminars in our workplaces. It's in our churches. It's in our hobby groups. I was indoctrinated into it in college 20 years ago, but it is now being forced on children in public schools as early as kindergarten. Heck, it's even being pushed on babies. Babies! I kid you not, with books like Anti-Racist Baby becoming trendy in this illiberal cultural revolution, and the Democrats support all of this. They are no longer a party of liberalism. They are a party of social justice, Marxism, and authoritarianism. Well, I am a liberal, and I will not allow these Marxist totalitarians to redefine that word the way they try to redefine so many. And this, by the way, is why I refuse to call myself a classical liberal. I refuse, because I have been a liberal since I was in high school, okay? My values have not changed in those 20 years. My positioning in regards to where the Democratic Party was is what's changed. They moved off the cliff and went over the left cliff of Crazy Town, right? But my values did not change, and that's why I absolutely refuse to even modify the term liberal. I'm a liberal now. I was a liberal 20 years ago. I haven't moved. There is nothing liberal about supporting censorship by big social or big government. There is nothing liberal about supporting violence by speaking lies that conflate violence with speech in order to justify violence as a response to speech. Silence is not violence. Words are not violence. There is nothing liberal about indoctrinating generations of children into racism, sexism, and saying it's okay because you call it anti-racism and feminism. Clever, but you're lying. There is nothing progressive about pushing escalating numbers of children to medically transition only to mock and demean them if they later detransition. There is nothing progressive about wishing death on people who disagree with you, but celebrating when a terrorist shoots up a Republican baseball game, about grave dancing when cops, both black and white, are gunned down at a Black Lives Matter rally. I am a liberal who is voting for Trump because I am deeply worried about the state of our country and about the erosion of cultural values like free speech, equality, the non-aggression principle, reason, logic, objectivity, and individualism. I am a liberal who is voting for Donald Trump because I oppose racism and sexism. And I see my old party, the Democratic Party, has been entirely eaten up with cancerous, racist, and sexist beliefs. A mind virus that threatens to make monsters of men and to end civilization as we know it. I agree with absolutely every word that she's writing here, which is why I'm not adding much additional commentary. Let's keep going. I am a liberal who is voting for Trump because despite the names I will be called and the friends I have lost and will lose, I believe he is the person running who has demonstrated the most commitment to ending war, the most commitment to individualism and equality, and the most commitment to free speech. In short, I am a liberal who is voting for Trump because I think he is the most liberal of the candidates I can choose from. And let me say a word about others like me who are a part of Walkaway, and those I've been blessed to get to know in the past year or so. Nobody willingly subjects themselves to social ostracism, to name-calling and insults, to risk of losing their job, to risk of losing their family's safety, without good reason. And that reason is the pursuit of truth. Mark Granovetter, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, proposed threshold theory as a way of understanding riots. He said that there are those in a riot who have a threshold of 0, who will be the first to throw a rock. And there are not many of those. But there are those with a threshold of 1 who will be emboldened to throw a rock as long as someone is already doing it. And then there are those with a threshold of 2, and so on, until you get a full mob or riot happening. I think this theory explains what is happening in the Democratic Party today, not only in regards to actual riots, but in regards to why so many are now mindlessly parroting racist and sexist social justice beliefs. Because others are doing it. Well, the opposite is true too. I believe in a threshold theory for truth. I believe there are those, and there are relatively few of them, who have a threshold of 0 who will be the first to speak truth, even when they are mocked and maligned and threatened and lied about. And those brave people encourage others. They encourage those with a threshold of 1 to start speaking the truth because they see at least one other person doing it, no matter the consequence. And those people inspire those with a threshold of 2, and so on until truth prevails. One person turning on their light can spark others to turn on their light. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." Or in the words of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, a man who brought down a version of this ideology once before, simply by speaking the truth. To stand up for nothing, let your credo be this: let the lie come into the world, let it even triumph, but not through me. So, liberals are leaving the party, Democrats. They are. And you can want Joe Biden to be stuck in his basement all you want and just to not say a word, but you're not going to win this election because your base is abandoning you. Because you abandoned them. You abandoned the principles that caused us to join the Democratic Party in the first place. And now you've left us this option of a horrible presidential candidate who doesn't even know what state he's in half the time, a really awful VP option who, frankly, I would not feel comfortable with her in a leadership position. I think she demonstrated what she'll do in her time as Attorney General in California, and that's not something I want for this country. The only candidate that you've given me that is anywhere close to my values at all is Donald Trump. I don't agree with Trump on everything. I really don't. He is not my favorite person in the world. If I could handpick someone to be in his place, God, there's so many options. But of the candidates, he is far and away the more liberal one. And I think the Democratic Party is going to come to a crashing reality in November when that's exactly what the country tells them.